My career was not at all planned, and I think what it points out is why it's so important to take on new opportunities when you don't always know what they're going to end up doing. I started in engineering as a project engineer in a refinery at a fairly low level, working in right out of college. I went to graduate school, got a master's degree, decided I didn't want to stay in college anymore. And then I went to a sales organization and I spent 10 years in sales, customer support, and then later product marketing for, at the time, IBM, which was a big company, and got lots and lots of training there. So I experienced the HR programs of a really well-run company early in my career. And at that point in time, IBM was the Google of its era. So it was a very, very, very successful, very well-run, highly esteemed company. And then in the early 2000s, when IBM was kind of falling apart, I went to work for a software company and worked in business development and then later product management. And so I really learned a lot about building stuff as opposed to selling stuff. And then in the early 2000s, I left that software company, Sybase, and went to work for a startup. And so that's where I really learned about building a business and starting a company and hiring people from scratch. It was a relatively small, underfunded company in the online learning market. That's how I got into HR, by the way. And the founder of the company actually left very soon after I joined. He had a heart attack. So I ended up having to be more or less the general manager of that little company. And we eventually sold the company to a big publicly traded company where I became the head of product marketing. And so then, and that company was in the online learning market. And then during the 2000 recession at the dot-com crash, I was laid off from that company and didn't really have a job and did a lot of consulting on the side and eventually realized that I liked to write. And that's how I became an analyst. And for the remaining 22 years after that, because it's been 22 years, I've been an analyst and learning about HR. So my career was completely unpredictable. I would say one of the things that I learned was I was a late bloomer. I did not rocket to the top in any of my jobs or any of the companies I worked in. I was a solid performer. I always enjoyed the work and worked hard at it and tried to do a good job at it, and just learned along the way to do more and more different kinds of things, and was always a good observer of the people around me. And that's really one of the fundamentals of building a great career in HR is we're in a very, very dynamic profession. My experience of jumping around and trying new things and learning on the fly is really what you're going to have to do in HR. And that would be the big lesson that I've learned. And the second lesson I've learned is whatever job you have, even if it feels like a dead end, even if you're not crazy about the company, even if you don't like your manager, stick with it. Better things come along. You learn things along the way. And sure enough, the things that didn't go well in one job work out to be great in the next one. And that's really the longevity of careers and the longevity of the professional life we now have that I think is another part of being a great HR person.